What's going on, guys? Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to start to explore this whole world of meditation and mindfulness, and I'm going to show you how we can use meditation and mindfulness as a tool to integrate directly into the principles I've been sharing on this channel. Because believe it or not, even though I don't explicitly talk about meditation or mindfulness a whole heap, the principles I share, the principles I talk about, ultimately help you accomplish the same end as meditation and mindfulness. And that's all about being present with the market, making the most informed decisions. So I really wanted to bring up some more information on meditation and mindfulness as a way to help give you additional tools, as well as everything else I've been talking about, to ensure that you're making the best possible decisions as traders. You're ultimately making the most informed, process-based decisions, and ultimately the most profitable decisions that are going to lead to consistent profitability into the future and throughout your journey as a trader. Now, if it's the first time checking into the channel, first and foremost, welcome. My name is Pat Bay-Looney, and I'm the founder of Master Your Trading Mindset, which is an education and performance coaching business. And we work with traders all around the world, helping them overcome their psychological challenges and helping them accomplish their trading goals, like funding, for example. Now, we have numerous resources below in the description. We've got our free tool, we've got a 12-week challenge. So please go and check these out. I've also got links to my recommended prop firms and also access to our free Discord group, where if you have any additional questions or you want to get in contact with me, that's probably the best way to contact me. So jump in that Discord, check out the links in the description. But without further ado, let's get into today's lecture. I'm extremely excited to share the things I have to share with you in this particular lecture. I think it's going to add a lot of additional value and ultimately help you make more profit as a trader. Now, the big problem we're going to be solving today with today's lecture, and really the big problem I try and help a lot of traders overcome, is this. Traders are not listening to the market. They're not present with the market. And the market's constantly trying to communicate information to you. The question you want to ask yourself is, are you listening? I think a lot of the challenges traders have in terms of making profitable decision making stem from the fact that they're not listening to what the market's trying to communicate to them. Rather, they're caught in this virtual market in their head. This is what I like to call it. The virtual market is very different to the real market. It's this market we create in our head about what we think is going to happen next and how we think price is going to play out, etc., etc. And as a result, traders are caught in this virtual market. They're caught thinking about what they think is going to happen next. And then they go off and project low quality setups. They project non-profitable decisions onto the real market, and ultimately they get humbled. So when we discuss today's presentation on meditation, I'm going to be sharing why this is the case, where this comes from, and how you can utilize meditation and mindfulness as a tool to learn to become more present with the actual market. You start to get out this virtual market in your head, and you also start to build awareness of when you're in the virtual market, and you start to have techniques and principles and tools to be able to snap out of it so you can get back present with the market. Now, a big part of the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool, if you don't already have this free tool, it's a link in the description. A big part of that tool is helping you build up to self-awareness of, all right, am I making an outcome-based decision based on the virtual market I've created in my head? Or am I making a process-based decision because I'm listening to what the market's communicating to me, and hey, it aligns with my trading plan, aligns with my processes I'm going to execute because that's the case. So that tool helps you do that. As well as having meditation, there is another tool to help you snap out of it and get back present with the market. As well as, for example, my 12-week challenge. Each of those weeks are really dedicated to helping you level up your psychology and ultimately helping you make more profitable, process-based, present decisions as a trader. These are all tools I want to give to you guys and girls, because I know being able to be present with the market, being able to listen to what the market's communicating to you, and being able to make the most informed decision based on what the market's presenting that aligns with your trading plan in that moment is the way to consistent profitability. So that's why we're discussing this particular topic. Now, why are traders not present? Traders are not present because they're caught in the memory and imagination, the past and future dynamics, usually in their subconscious mind, okay? Now, I've made a lecture on the subconscious, I made a lecture on confirmation bias. These are two lectures you want to refer back to if you're a little bit confused by what I'm talking about here. Obviously, if you've been through my 12-week challenge, we cover this in extreme detail and you get a very great overview of how your psychology actually works. But many traders are caught in the memory and imagination. We have certain logged moments of perception. For example, in the past, at 12 o'clock on Thursday at 2002, a very specific moment, I was in my room at my desk, and Eurodollar in my perception took me out for a loss. That was extremely painful. So there's a specific moment in the past that we have logged in our subconscious mind that we perceive more pain than pleasure to. And what's going to happen is, consciously or unconsciously, that's going to be there as a negative experience, a painful experience that we want to avoid in the future. And if that's left unaddressed, we're going to have that future fear. We may not even know consciously, unless you ask good questions, you go back to that moment, why you're having that avoidance mechanism, but it's a very specific reason at a very specific moment. And there's a very specific ratio of perception there that's leading and driving the future fear, for example. And these are things that I teach in the 12-week challenge. These are things that, people think that the human psychology isn't specific. They think that it can't be an exact thing. But truth be told, it is. And it can be a very exact thing if you know the tools, if you have the principles, if you know how to ask the right questions. The thing is, most people don't know how to ask the right questions, so they think the human psychology is just this thing that can't be understood. But I assure you, go in there and you do the processes, and you'll see that there's very specific moments that you can identify that are driving future fears. And what's more, if you have the great questions, you can actually go in there and manage those previous moments. You can address them. You can neutralize the imbalanced perception there. And that all of a sudden allows you to become present, because you're not caught in the memory and imagination, not caught in the resentment and fear dynamics. Anyway, we go into great detail on this in the 12-week challenge. If you want to learn more on this, that's the place to be. Now, the reason traders aren't present is because they're caught in these dynamics. They've got subconsciously stored baggage of this is painful in the past, or this is very pleasurable in the past. And those subconsciously stored moments of perception take traders away from being present, right? So if we're at the position, if we're at in front of the real market, at our charts, at our desk, and we're seeing a potential setup that reminds us of a setup in the past happening on a particular pair, or we're trading a particular pair that we've traded in the past, whatever it may be, there could be certain associations there. And what happens in our brain is we see something that reminds us of that painful experience. Guess what? We have that trigger that triggers us in that moment. And then in that split second moment, we go away from being present with the real market, and we go into our virtual market in our head of that previous experience is extremely painful. And all of a sudden, now we're away from being present with the market. So it's these subconsciously stored moments of perception. The moment we're triggered or we have some level of association, we go zoop away from being present and we get into the virtual market. This is either a painful or pleasurable experience based on how it's logged in the subconscious. So this is how not addressing the previous experiences as traders can actually take you away from being present with what the market's communicating to you in that particular moment. Okay, this is the problem I'm bringing to surface that many traders need to address. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to make informed decisions. Because hey, guess what? We have a moment in the market, whatever it may be, and let's say, for example, that reminds us of a previous experience that was very painful. Then we have that trigger, we have that unconscious reaction. This is painful, I want to avoid it. We then have confirmation bias to only let in information to support why this is a bad scenario to be in. And we have disconfirmation bias to block out anything that may be pleasurable in that moment. And we have an avoidance of, I don't want to get into that. I want to avoid that. And that may be disrupting your edge. Right? That's a really key point. That reaction, that emotional reaction to the unaddressed baggage in your mind may actually be fear pulling you away from the very thing you need to do to have consistent profit with your edge. And the same thing can happen in reverse. A very pleasurable experience of the past, something can trigger us. That can be a very pleasurable thing that we're reminded of. And we now have a seeking mechanism to seek after that. And again, that may not be part of our process. That may not be part of our edge, but we have this addiction to get that pleasure again that takes us away from our edge. This is why I say that it's the unaddressed resentment, infatuations of the past, or the future fear and greed dynamics, the fear and fantasy that I have here, that ultimately undermine the trader's ability to have consistent profits, because it's the emotions that take away from your trading plan. But let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, I don't think it's necessarily possible to get to this stage where you have completely addressed every single one of the subconsciously stored baggages, but you can get it to a state where it no longer runs you. But let's say you've gotten it to a state where it no longer runs you and you're more process driven and you've got the prefrontal cortex activated. Now, no matter what is happening in front of the market, you're neutral on it. So that way you're present with the market. You're not caught in the fear or greed dynamics or the resentment, infatuation dynamics in your subconscious mind, but you're present with the market. The market's communicating something to you. You can make the most informed decision because you're clear and you're headstrong and you're taking on information. You're making the most informed decision based on your plan. That's what I've seen great, successful, consistent, profitable traders do. And if you have the tools like I teach in the 12-week challenge, if you have an understanding of your psychology, you can get to a state and you've got your expectations managed and you start to implement a little bit of what I'm talking about here, what I'm going to talk about with the meditation and mindfulness. You can start to get emotional management in the moment of decision making, and you can make the most informed, process-based, profitable decision according to your plan because you're present. I hope that makes sense. I know it's a bit of a ramble, a bit of a tangent, but I really want to make clear that it's the unaddressed baggage that we have stored in the subconscious that ultimately affect your ability to make consistent profitability in the long run, because it's our emotions that take us away from trading our plan. And if you just stick to your plan that has an edge, you can expect consistent profitability in the long run. So now I'm going to start to talk about how we can use meditation to manage this and how we can use it as a way to get back present with the market. Because that's really how I promote meditation as a trader. Meditation is a great opportunity to build self-awareness in the moment and realize when you're caught in the dynamics, the emotional strings, and realize when you're fearful or greedy, and have that self-awareness and bring yourself back to realize that there's a real market in front of you, and that's very different to the virtual market we create in our head, and have that self-awareness to be present with the market and make the most informed decision based on what the market's communicating in that moment, based on what your plan says, as opposed to making decisions out of fear and greed, as opposed to making a decision because you want to avoid pain or you want to seek after pleasure, okay? So you can use meditation to train yourself to be present, bring yourself back. Now, ultimately, the best way to do this is to go in there and address the subconsciously stored baggage, like I teach in the 12-week challenge. But meditation, as well as that, is a great tool to bring yourself back. And I encourage you to do both until you develop the skill of snapping out of the virtual market and getting back present with the real market. And that's really what it's about. It's about learning to have the self-awareness of, oh, I got caught up in the virtual market, which is okay. It's going to happen. It's not that the best traders never get caught in the virtual market, never get caught making outcome-based decisions, but they have a level of self-awareness to catch themselves when they do. Bring it back. What's the market communicating? Does it align with my trading plan? Yes, no, make a decision based on that. Okay, so I'm going to share with you how you can use meditation to get back present so you can make the most informed decision. Because we only have emotion when we're caught in past or future, memory and imagination. That's where the emotions are stored. But when you're truly present, you're not emotional. When you're truly present, you're seeing things for what they are and you're taking on that information. So if you have some sort of meditation process that you can use, I've got a video for you on a meditation that you can do before you trade. You can train yourself like a muscle to bring yourself back to that present moment so you can make the most informed decision in that moment. So meditation is best to bring yourself back to being present. And it doesn't matter how you do this. You can do it by focusing on your breath. You can do it by focusing on a mantra. You can do it by focusing on affirmations or visualizations. Or you can do it by chewing gum, for example, and just focusing on being present with chewing the gum. It doesn't really matter how you meditate, but what does matter is you're present with what's happening here and now, and you have that self-awareness of when you are and when you're not present. And learning to bring it back so you can listen to what the market's communicating to you and you can make the most informed decision according to your plan. So I don't want to say you have to meditate a certain way. I don't want to say you have to do this or you have to do that. I have a particular meditation that I put together, which I think you should check out. I think it'll be useful. It'll be free on YouTube. But it doesn't matter how you do it. It's about developing the skill of learning to be present. And deeper than that, it's about developing the self-awareness when you're not present, learning to bring it back. And then even deeper than that, it's about learning to be present and listening to the market, what the market's communicating, and then learning to make process-based decisions that align with your trading plan based on what the market's communicating. So a really great form of meditation that I would personally use whenever I do meditate, I don't say I meditate every day, I wouldn't say that, but I do use some form of a meditation process when I think it's useful for me and when I'm really sort of thrown off. I tend to use more of the tools I teach in the 12-week challenge as a way to actually address the root cause, and then I find meditation is a great addition on top of that. But a great form of meditation, like I'm going to have in that YouTube video, that YouTube meditation I'm going to create for you guys, is focusing on breathing and focusing on your breath. And it's about, it doesn't mean you have to be completely clear-minded, but it's about observing whatever comes into your awareness and not judging it. And if you do think about certain things, if you do have certain distractions, it's about not giving power to those things and learning to just observe those particular things and letting them pass by. Just like when the market presents an opportunity, the moment you get elated by that opportunity and you compare it to subconsciously stored data, you now go into your virtual market in your head and you're making an outcome-based decision. But if you can learn to see what the market's presenting for what it is and you're not judging it, you're then in a position to take on the information for what it is and make a most process-based decision. So the more you inform and the more you practice yourself, the more you practice meditation, the more you practice observing whatever's presented to you as opposed to judging it, in my opinion, the better trader you become. And the root here is addressing the subconsciously stored baggage. So that's why I really focus on that. But then on top of that, meditation is a great way to train that muscle to get back. So you can focus on breathing, you can focus on visualizing some form of blue air coming through your nostrils, feeling that sensation, going into your diaphragm and then out again, and just learn to be present with your breath. And then whenever you do get distracted, whenever you do get taken away from that, which will happen, you just observe whatever thoughts you have, you observe whatever emotions or feelings you have, but don't judge them, don't give any power to them. And then bring yourself back to focusing on your breath. And I believe doing this over and over and over, not overnight, but over and over and over for certain periods of time, months, years, you learn to develop the skill of self-awareness, and you learn to develop the skill of bringing it back, being present with things for how they are, and that's an immense skill to have as a trader. I really believe it's a great skill to have as a trader. Now, it's a skill like anything, and for those of you who've been to the gym or those of you who've started a business or started a family, you know in the early days it doesn't look so glamorous, but you put time and effort and energy in, and things start to develop, things start to come together. No different with the practice of meditation, no different with the principles I teach in the 12-week challenge. It's all about consistently and persistently focusing on what's of priority. And I think meditation is a great form of priority if it is for you. And you learn to develop that muscle, you learn to develop that skill, and over time you get better at it. And over time you start to realize, you know what, I caught myself in the real time in the market, being caught into the virtual market in my head, I brought myself back. And it may not happen for the first few months when you do the tools in the 12-week challenge, when you use the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool, when you meditate. You may catch yourself after the fact and you may have to learn that lesson, but over time you get better, and over time you learn to develop that self-awareness in the moment. And that's really what it's about. So the benefits of meditating: it makes you more present with the market. It lets you listen to what the market's actually communicating to you. That's the key benefit I want to communicate, because unless you're listening to what the market's communicating, you're going to project what you think onto the market's going to humble you, because the market's never wrong. The market has to be respected, and anybody who knows that they think they know better than the market and they start projecting onto the market, they get humbled very quick. So it's about being present with the market and learning to listen to what the market's communicating. It allows you, now that you're present with the market and the market's presented what it wants to do, you can now make the most profitable decision, because you look at your plan, does it align with what the market is showing it wants to do? If it does, great, I'm going to execute on that. It allows you to lower your emotional volatilities. A lot of things come here from being present with the market. You no longer have outcome-based expectations. You no longer have expectations on the pleasure you're going to make from a particular position. Therefore, your emotional volatilities after that are more reined in, because you don't have fantasies that get crushed. So you learn to be more present. You make more profitable decisions. You lower the emotional volatilities. It brings greater self-awareness, which is not only great for trading in general, but also great for life in general as well. So meditation presents a lot of great benefits. Most importantly, it allows you to be present in the market, make the most informed process-based decisions. I think if traders get that and they have a clear trading plan, they learn to balance their emotions in the 12-week challenge, and they have meditation there as a way to bring themselves back in the moment before they make decisions, and they just consistently execute in their trading plan. There's no reason why they can't have consistent profits. It's for these particular reasons that I wanted to create some form of a meditation for you guys. It's going to be a very simple meditation that you can follow along with on YouTube. I'll have it linked in the description, and you can just go on that. You can listen to it before you trade, you can listen to it after you trade, you can listen to it whenever. It's going to run you through a guided meditation, listening to my voice, and that's a way to go off and practice bringing it back and practicing self-awareness and practicing focusing and being present in the moment. Now, if you have additional other meditations like different apps and that type of stuff, great, you can continue to use those. There's no reason why my meditation should be used in exchange for those particular meditations if you already have something that you love. But if you don't, check out the YouTube video that I put out, check out other meditation apps, find the one that resonates with you. Remember, it doesn't really matter how you do it or why you, or the way you go off and meditate or what meditation you do. It's about practicing self-awareness. It's about practicing learning to bring it back. It's about practicing being present with whatever's happening in front of you. And as traders, it's about translating that into your decision making as traders. So if you got value from this, you're gonna love the 12-week challenge. Please check that out. But if you found this useful, please share it with friends. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.